The scream that pierced the phone line was raw, primal, a sound that bypassed the ear and went straight to the spine of the 911 dispatcher in Santa Fe. "Call the police! Please, call the police!" A woman's voice shrieked before the line went dead. For the officers receiving the call-out, the scenario was terrifyingly clear. A woman had been carjacked and kidnapped at knife point. Her life was in imminent danger, and she was trapped in a moving vehicle with a man who had already shown a willingness to use a blade. This was the kind of call that sent a jolt of adrenaline through the entire department. A race against time where every second was a fraying thread connecting a victim to survival. As patrol units scrambled, they quickly located the suspect vehicle, a white Chevy Malibu. What followed was a high-stakes pursuit that would escalate from dangerous to utterly surreal. The Malibu wove through the streets of Santa Fe with a manic, unpredictable energy. It swerved through traffic, made sudden, jerking turns, and then, in a heart-stopping maneuver, it veered onto the southbound lanes of Interstate 25. But it was traveling north, into oncoming traffic. The radio chatter from the officers became a tense, staccato symphony of horror. Headed southbound in the northbound lane, the stakes had just been catastrophically raised. This was no longer just about saving one woman. It was about preventing a mass casualty event. Inside one of the pursuing cruisers, an officer's voice remained calm but urgent, describing the nightmare unfolding before him. "Speeds are at 87. Light traffic at the moment. A small mercy." But then, he's turning around. Now we're headed back into Santa Fe. Wrong direction. The Malibu was a pendulum of chaos, swinging back and forth across the highway. A metal projectile aimed at every innocent driver in its path. The officers could only follow, their lights and sirens a desperate plea for other motorists to see the danger and get out of the way. They were trying to contain an explosion that was already in motion. Then came the sound every cop dreads. Over the radio, a transmission broke through, this one stripped of all professional calm. 19 myself. 319 myself and another unit just got into a head-on collision here. The pursuit was over, but not in the way anyone had hoped. The aftermath was a scene of twisted metal and unfolding tragedy. Officers rushed from their cars, their focus instantly split. One group descended on the wrecked Malibu, weapons drawn, expecting a violent confrontation with an armed kidnapper. Another group ran to the horrifying wreckage of the two police cruisers that had collided head-on in the chaos. An officer approached the Malibu, yelling commands into the shattered windows. "Get out of the car! Get out of the car right now!" But instead of an armed man, a lone woman stumbled out from the driver's side, hysterical, sobbing. She was immediately secured. "I got the female coming back to me right now," the officer reported. "She's saying it's her boyfriend." The story began to shift in real time. The alleged kidnapper, she said, was named Mark. He had a gun and a knife. He had threatened to kill her, to light her on fire. And now, she claimed, he had fled the scene on foot into the nearby dark, brush-covered hills. As she was put into the back of a police car, trembling and repeating her horrific story, another, more urgent reality was taking hold. The collision had been devastating. One officer was already dead. Another was critically injured, fighting for his breath. The entire resources of the Santa Fe Police Department, and soon every allied agency in the state, were mobilized. A massive perimeter was established. SWAT teams rolled in with armored Bearcats. A police helicopter thumped overhead, its spotlight scanning the rugged terrain for the vanished Mark. The investigation had instantly become a manhunt for a dangerous, elusive fugitive and a homicide investigation into the death of a fallen officer. The entire community held its breath, united in grief and a desire for justice. But as the hours ticked by, the narrative carefully constructed by the sobbing woman in the back of the patrol car began to develop hairline fractures. The first crack appeared with the crime scene investigators. The Malibu's airbags had deployed. Standard procedure was to swab them for DNA. The results were unequivocal. Only one DNA profile was present on the driver's side airbag. It belonged to Janine Harmino. There was no evidence of a second person, a Mark, ever being in that seat. Then, there was the key fob. The vehicle had been reported stolen 2 days earlier. Yet, when evidence technicians processed the back of the patrol car where Harmino had been sitting, they found the key fob to the Malibu tucked away. Why would a kidnapping victim, who had been forced into her own car at knife point, be in possession of the keys to the vehicle she was supposedly held hostage in? Investigators began to dig deeper, retracing the steps of that day before the frantic 911 call. They located surveillance footage from the area where the initial altercation was reported. The video told a story starkly different from Harmino's tearful account. It showed no violent kidnapping. It showed no struggle. It showed Harmino and a man, later identified as her boyfriend, having a heated argument. He got out of the car and walked away. She was left alone, unharmed, and in control of the vehicle. The desperate cries for help, the story of a knife-wielding maniac, it was all a fabrication. The 911 call that launched 100 police officers into a life-and-death pursuit was based on a lie. The final, damning piece of evidence came from the vehicle's internal computer. Modern cars are rolling data recorders, and the Malibu was no exception. Its data confirmed what the DNA and the video footage suggested. At the time of the catastrophic crash, only the driver's seat was occupied. There was no mark. There had never been a kidnapping. Janine Harmino was alone. She had stolen the car. She had fabricated the entire story to cover her own actions. And in her reckless, narcissistic flight from police, she had created a chain of events that led directly to the head-on collision that killed Officer Robert Duran and critically injured another. The arrest was a quiet, solemn affair. The charge was no longer about a stolen vehicle or fleeing police. It was first-degree murder. The legal doctrine of felony murder dictates that if a death occurs during the commission of a dangerous felony, the perpetrator of that felony can be charged with murder. Janine Harmino's decision to steal a car and then flee from police at astronomically dangerous speeds was the dangerous felony. The death of Officer Duran was a direct and foreseeable consequence. Her web of lies had unraveled, leaving only the cold, hard truth of her responsibility for a tragedy. At trial, the defense argued that Harmino was a victim herself of addiction, of a tumultuous relationship, of poor judgment. She took the stand, her voice now a whisper compared to the screams on the 911 call. She apologized, she cried, she claimed she never meant for anyone to get hurt. But the prosecution methodically laid out the evidence. The DNA, the key fob, the surveillance video, the vehicle data. They painted a picture of a woman who valued her own freedom above all else, above the lives of the police officers sworn to protect her, and above the lives of every motorist on I-25 that day. The jury's deliberation was a tense, emotional weight for a community and a police department that had been forever scarred. When the verdict was read, guilty of murder in the first degree, it was a moment of solemn vindication, but it brought no one back. During sentencing, the widow of Officer Duran spoke not with anger, but with a profound, heartbreaking sorrow. She spoke of her husband's dedication, his desire to help people, to save people, the very impulse that had sent him into that fatal pursuit. She asked for the maximum sentence not out of vengeance, but for the protection of others from Harmino's selfish and reckless behavior. Janine Harmino was sentenced to life in prison, a total of 60 years behind bars. She became a permanent resident of the institution she had tried so desperately to avoid, her life defined by the one she had so carelessly taken. The case of the Santa Fe police pursuit stands as a chilling reminder of how a single lie, set into motion with a phone call, can metastasize into unthinkable tragedy. It underscores the incredible risks law enforcement officers accept every day, rushing toward danger based on the information they are given, their trust sometimes weaponized against them. And it leaves us with a haunting question. How far would someone go to avoid accountability for their mistakes? And who else might pay the ultimate price for that deception? The twisted wreckage on the highway has long been cleared, but the scars on a department and a city remain, a permanent testament to a day when a cry for help turned out to be the catalyst for a nightmare.